So Canon has finally released the new 1DX Mark III, and although it may arguably be the best hybrid camera on the market, there's still plenty of things that I think they could have done better, done without, or just came short of. Now don't worry, there's plenty of great things about this camera, so if you're one of the people debating whether or not you should buy it, after this video, definitely check out another video that I uploaded at the same exact time, the 5 things that I love about the Canon 1DX Mark III, so that way I'm hopefully giving a fair bias on both sides of what's good, bad, and everything in between. In this video, we're basically going to just be touching upon what we've heard thus far and from the people that have actually gotten their hands on it. So this is more of a first impressions rather than a review. So let's get into it. Here are the 5 things that I really hate or strongly dislike about the Canon 1DX Mark III. The first thing is the fact that it has inconsistent bit rates, codecs, resolutions, and it's just a very confusing menu system. Now, I really thought about putting menu system design on this list, but I honestly could put that on any list because personally, I think I'm spoiled with Blackmagic because their menu system is the greatest ever. At least in the DSLR and mirrorless camera, I think all menu systems pretty much suck on all camera manufacturers. But that's not even what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is the fact that you have to really think in terms of, do I want to sacrifice quality to get this frame rate? Or do I want this resolution? Or do I want autofocus? Like, you really have to know exactly what each setting is going to change. And it always worries me on these cameras that when I change to a different resolution to maybe get like a 120 FPS slow-mo, am I going to have the same color information than when I'm shooting like A-roll and I'm just at 24 at 6K or 5.5K on this camera? And so while I do appreciate the amount of options that you have, that is on my love list in the other video, I do think it's very unfortunate that you really have to know the settings and how they are going to change the outcome of your footage. Next on the list, I saw in an article, which is super weird, which is they still have a recording limit. If myself and the 2 or 3 other articles from reputable review camera websites that I've read are wrong about this, please let me know down in the comments below. But man, this thing still has a 30-minute record time, and sure, when you're recording B-roll or something or short clips, that's not a big issue. But when you're recording things like this, interviews, seminars, any long form content where you're just pressing record, it is so annoying to have to make sure that you're staying within that time. And cameras that have that do it so that like the sensors don't overheat, or basically the cooling system isn't as good, and so they need to pause, which also concerns me because sometimes even if you're within that 30-minute window, if you start, stop, record it real quick, you can easily overheat it. It will stop recording without you knowing, and you may lose out on footage. That's happened to me in the past. Never fun, not good. So if there truly is a time limit on a $6,500 camera, that's just not cool in my opinion. Now in my other video, I talked about how, hey, you have some great autofocus features on this camera, and in some ways, I'm greatly jealous with no autofocus on my Blackmagic. But just know before you buy that you don't have the great Canon dual pixel autofocus in all settings. If you go anything above 30 frames per second, or you're in that 5.5K, you are not going to get autofocus. You are not going to get the digital image stabilization, which by the way, doesn't have real image stabilization. It's all the digital kind. And the weirdest one is you don't get any focus guides, which I believe is what they're calling like focus assist, or like the real term is focus peaking, which like the autofocus I can somewhat get behind because again, usually if you're shooting B-roll in slow motion, you don't really need autofocus, but it would be helpful. Of course, people would like it, but I get that. The image stabilization, okay, I also kind of get that, I guess, from a hardware limitation point of view, but why does it take away the focus assist? Like, that makes no sense to me. And especially when you're shooting like B-roll or fast-paced stuff, I use my focus peaking every single time because of course this camera is only manual focus. If I didn't have focus peaking, man, I would miss so many shots. It's crazy. Again, just like my first point with the whole mess of codecs and things like that, you also need to realize that when you change to a different resolution, different frame rate, different codec, different color management, different bit depth, you also may lose out on these features as well. So while everyone may not care It does suck for the people who aren't going to look for that fine print. They're gonna buy it because they see the big text of awesome specifications of this camera, and then they're going to sadly learn that you can't do a lot of the things in all the different modes. Number 4 is the new media card. This is the CF Express card, I believe it's called. And while it's an amazing card with unthinkable read and write speeds, again, the fact that we're changing media after CFast still hasn't come down to like solid state prices or SD card prices has gotta kind of be a punch in the gut for a lot of pros who have spent thousands of dollars on CFast and other forms of media cards. And this camera does have 2 slots, and that's great. And of course, the arguments can be made that if you can afford this camera, you can afford to buy the expensive media, but it does still suck that if you have a camera that maybe takes just like a normal CFast, like 2nd gen or whatever card, all that media is essentially useless in this camera. And finally is the cost. Now, I'm not gonna complain about a camera costing $6,500. Again, I understand the world of professionals. I mean, Red, Ari, enough said. But when you get into the above $5,000 price point, again, the amount of people that really should get this camera is so small because it's such a hybrid camera. If you are primarily a video shooter, why would you not just get the Canon C200? It is the exact same price and has way better features compared to this. Yes, you don't get the 5.5K sensor, but you still get 4K, you get the dual pixel autofocus, you get built-in NDs, and it is a camera body that is specifically made for video shooters. Or if you want to come down in price a little bit, you can get something like a Blackmagic Pocket 6K for $2,500, and then you could get like a Canon 5D Mark IV or Canon EOS R, or a hybrid camera. You could get the Fuji X-T3. Like, there's so many combinations you could do that I think would be better money spent, or just get one of those cameras. Or if you're primarily a stills photographer, again, get one of those lower cost option cameras which still do incredible stills, and nowadays they're all still going to have video features. So this camera is just kind of really weird to me because it's trying to go after the pro video market and trying to go after the pro photographer market. This camera is the closest that I think we've ever gotten to that perfect hybrid camera. But I think unless you are literally like a Peter McKinnon, I think it's always best to choose a dedicated camera in either the video or photo category that you primarily live in. Now, I'd love to hear what you guys think down below. Do you strongly disagree with some of my points, all of my points, or at least my opinion there at the end? I know these videos are always hard because I haven't had my hands on the camera itself, so it may seem a little unfair, but again, this is just kind of my first impressions based on their launch video and all the videos and articles that I've read from other photographers and filmmakers. So definitely get subscribed and stay tuned to see more content on the Canon 1DX Mark III once it comes out and footage comes out, as well as plenty of other content to come. And again, if you haven't watched my 5 things I love about the Canon 5DX Mark III, just so you know that I'm not totally bashing this camera, definitely check that out here at the end. Thumbnail is somewhere and as well linked below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.